They thought they knew what they were looking at. They were wrong. She thought the dog was being affectionate. The dog had never been particularly affectionate. Miriam was 38 years old. Miriam was elementary school principal. And Miriam's dog had never done anything like this before in 6 years. The 6-year-old Cocker Spaniel, Golden, 28 pounds, had habits as fixed as furniture. It slept in the same spot, ate at the same hour, moved through the house in the same sequence. She had owned it long enough to know its rhythms the way you know a person's breathing pattern. Below the level of conscious thought, part of the background fabric of a life. That fabric had changed. Miriam could not yet say how, but something in the house felt differently weighted on the side where the dog was. The 16-month-old Zoe was in the house. That fact did not change Miriam's reading. It should have. David looked at the dog and said, "Probably just a phase." Miriam nodded. Both of them were wrong in the particular way people are wrong when they have already decided. On the first day, Miriam noticed but filed it away. It was unusual, not alarming. The dog had earned the benefit of the doubt over 6 years. On the second day, the behavior returned. More specific, same location or same body orientation or same object fixation. Miriam applied a professional framework. She was elementary school principal. She had frameworks for this. On the third day, Miriam tried to redirect. The dog could not be redirected. On the fifth day, Miriam physically separated it from whatever it was fixating on. It returned within 4 minutes. On the sixth day, when Miriam kept it in a different room, it began making a sound it had never made before. Not distress, not play, but something older and more deliberate. That was the sound Miriam could not classify. And because she could not classify it, she made a note. That note, written at the bottom of a grocery list and then transferred to her phone, had a timestamp that would later matter. The behavior escalated. Each new day added one layer of intensity. The dog was not asking. It was telling. It had reached the limit of what its body could communicate, and it was using everything it had. Miriam was sure about one thing. There was a rational explanation. There was always a rational explanation. She was elementary school principal. She had spent years building frameworks for precisely these moments. And the framework said, animals have anxiety responses. Animals have resource-guarding behaviors. Animals have attention-seeking cycles. The framework was reliable. The framework had been right before. The framework was wrong. What the framework could not account for was the thing that had no visible symptom, no apparent trigger, no surface-level evidence that anything was wrong. What the dog was registering, through the 60 million scent receptors in its nose, through the vibration sensitivity in its paws, through the biochemical literacy that had been built into that species over 40,000 years of living alongside human beings, was happening below the threshold of everything Miriam had been trained to detect. The moment of crossing came quietly. A small change. A number slightly off, a color that seemed wrong, a sound or a stillness, or an absence that Miriam's professional knowledge recognized 1 second too late, and Miriam's body recognized first. She was moving toward the door before the thought had fully assembled. The pediatric ENT was direct. They asked her questions without softening them. When they had the answers, they used the language of their profession, which is a language built around precision and time. They said, bilateral otitis media. In a child this age, if it progresses to the mastoid. They did not finish. They did not need to. If you stay for stories about what animals sense before we do, you're in the right place. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Miriam sat with what the pediatric ENT had said. She sat with it, the way you sit with something that rearranges the furniture inside your certainty. The ear sniffing. Not grooming. The right side only. The persistent return. Alert. She had dismissed all of it. Every signal. Every repeated behavior. Every escalation. She had used every professional tool available, and had still been looking at the wrong question. The dog had been looking at the right one. Has your pet ever done something that made no sense until it was the only thing that did? Tell us in the comments. These stories deserve to be heard. The dog returned to its normal life within a week. Its regular spot, its regular habits, its regular morning sequence through the house. No performance, no aftermath. Just the quiet resumption of being exactly what it had always been. Miriam watched it settle back into its routine and thought about the precision of what it had done. Not because it had understood the outcome. It had not understood the outcome. It had understood that something was wrong, and it had been physically incapable of stopping until someone else understood that too. If stories like this matter to you, subscribe so you never miss the next one. There is a kind of loyalty that does not require language or diagnosis or the ability to explain itself. It only requires that the animal keep pointing at the thing that matters, for as long as pointing takes, until someone finally looks.